It is currently summer break for the Philadelphia Eagles as OTAs wrapped up about a week ago, and now the next time the Eagles will be back in action is training camp. However, this doesn't mean that there's nothing going on, as we have plenty of news circulating regarding several different players, much of which is very important. And in addition to this, there's potentially a huge advantage that the Eagles have over the rest of the NFL, and it's something that you might not expect. So we're going to talk about all of that in today's video, so let's not waste any time and get straight into it. So this week, most NFL teams have reported to mandatory minicamp, which is very similar to OTAs, the only difference being that OTAs are obviously optional, while minicamp is required and players can be subject to fines if they miss out on it. And we've obviously also had our fair share of storylines come out of those, Stephon Diggs being the most notable one, as he was missing from Bills minicamp in the early stages of it, but he has since reported. We still don't know the reason why he wasn't there in the first place, so that was definitely an interesting situation. But overall, minicamps are just a time where teams, they just get a chance to learn more about each other, get acclimated with your new teammates. If there's a new coaching staff put in place, then players have a chance to learn more about them and just learn their systems a little bit better. And overall, it's just a time to get working with everyone there and build more chemistry far ahead of the start of the season. Now for the Eagles, they won't get any of these benefits at a minicamp, and that's simply because they just don't have it, as the Eagles are just one of two teams in the NFL to not hold mandatory minicamp this spring, the other being the New York Jets, who actually had originally planned to hold minicamp but since canceled it. Now the Eagles, on the other hand, were never set to hold minicamp in the first place, as this is something that head coach Nick Sirianni has been consistent with through his first 3 off seasons with the Eagles, as the Eagles have not held mandatory minicamp now in any of the 3 years that Sirianni has been the head coach. The reason the Eagles didn't have minicamp in Sirianni's first year as the coach was because of COVID. COVID really complicated teams' offseason workouts and practices. OTAs, minicamp, even training camp were all affected by the COVID protocols. So what the Eagles decided to do was cancel minicamp to encourage more players to come to the OTAs, because this was obviously a very crucial offseason. It was Sirianni's first year as the head coach. There was a whole new training staff, and the players needed more time to acclimate to the new coaches, the new system, and just build chemistry. And obviously OTAs last longer than minicamp, so the team decided it would be best to cancel minicamp so that hopefully more players showed up to the OTAs, and that worked very well, as there was near a 100% attendance rate among players for multiple of the days during the OTA practices. And then the Eagles proceeded to have a very successful year under Sirianni, making the playoffs with a record of 9-8 in a season where many people expected them to be a very bad team. And ever since then, the Eagles haven't held a minicamp, but that's for a different reason, and that reason is that Nick Sirianni's #1 priority is player health, because obviously if you don't have a healthy team, you're probably not going to have a very good season, and one of Sirianni's strategies to keeping players healthy has been rest and recovery in the offseason, and that includes no mandatory minicamp. And this strategy was very effective for Sirianni and the Eagles last season, as they stayed very healthy. They had all 22 starters from week 1 playing and available in the Super Bowl. And when you think about it, that's extremely impressive, because the odds of that happening are just really low. I mean, training camp begins in late July, and then you're playing football from then all the way until February when the Eagles are playing in Super Bowl 57. That's just under 7 months of football. So for them to have all 22 starters fully healthy in their last game of the season is an impressive feat for sure. And it seems like Sirianni's strategy of rest and not having mandatory minicamp was very effective. And now this year, the Eagles will obviously be looking to accomplish the same thing in terms of player health, so it's no surprise that they didn't hold minicamp again this year. And if doing this yields the same results it has over the past couple seasons, then this could no doubt be a huge advantage for the Eagles, as right now when all the other teams are at minicamp, the Eagles are resting and they're recovering and getting ready for what should hopefully be a very healthy season for them. However, despite the proven positives of skipping minicamp, there may also be some potential negatives, and Ed Kratz of Sports Illustrated's Eagles Today wrote about this in a recent article, where he basically said that the fact that there was some turnover on the Eagles coaching staff this offseason could be a concern, and he elaborated by talking about last season, saying, quote, "You could make a case that Sirianni's staff returning fully intact after his first season in charge was a big reason the Eagles hit the ground running, reeling off 8 straight wins to open the season en route to a 14-3 regular season." And then after that, he continued on to say that now this year, there may be a learning curve for both the coaches and the players because of the changes at the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator positions, as well as at other positional group coaching spots, and that maybe having a couple extra days of minicamp would be helpful to get players acclimated. And look, I definitely get where he's coming from in saying this, but I really don't think it's that big of a deal. For one, I think the transition from Shane Steichen to Brian Johnson is going to be very smooth. Obviously, Brian Johnson was here along with Shane Steichen for the past couple seasons. Brian Johnson knows Shane Steichen's offense. He got to watch Shane Steichen prepare and call plays, and obviously Brian Johnson also is very close with Jalen Hurts. He was a big part of Hurts' development this past year. He's going to know how to get the most out of Hurts, and he knows what has worked in the past. And I'm not saying there's not going to be any learning curve for Brian Johnson. Obviously, you're going to have that with any coaching change, but I do think that it's going to be about as seamless as it can possibly be. And I really just don't expect any sort of drastic change with Brian Johnson coming in at the offensive coordinator, as opposed to how it was with Shane Steichen. And then so far in terms of the defensive coordinator position and Sean Desai, everything we've heard about Desai and how he's been in his new position with the Eagles so far has been very positive. And look, again, there's no denying that there will be a learning curve, but really at the end of the day, I just don't see 2 to 3 days of minicamp preventing any sort of growing pains due to these coaching changes. And the Eagles are going to have, obviously they had all of OTAs to get acclimated with the new coaches, they're going to have all of training camp, and I still see this overall as a net positive as long as it pays off in the way that it did last year and everyone's able to stay healthy. So really at the end of the day, I see this as a huge advantage for the Eagles coming into this next season. Now there's plenty of other Eagles news to get to, but before we do that, I just want to say if you are enjoying this video and want to see others like it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Around 80% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed. If you're one of those people, you've been watching the videos, you're enjoying them, you want to see others like it coming in the future, and you love the Philadelphia Eagles, make sure you fix that right now and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss when anything is uploaded. I think it's a win-win for both of us. And now with all that being said, let's get back into the video. So now moving into some other news, let's start with the trio of Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and Devonta Smith. And this could potentially be a huge advantage for the Eagles as well, as obviously last year Jalen Hurts proved to be an elite level quarterback, while Brown and Smith proved to be one of, if not the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. I mean, they were just phenomenal, but they're definitely not satisfied at this point, and they're not done getting better just yet. And just because there's no mandatory minicamp does not mean that these guys aren't going to be working to improve in their time off. And as OTAs wrapped up last week, Jalen Hurts said that the trio would most likely find times to get together and work on their craft during this break.
Plans to get the receivers together during this off period, and how much room for growth is there still with you and some of those guys?
Yeah, there'll definitely be an opportunity for us to get together and throw. You know, you can never not be, there is no limit to that. You know, we're always striving to kind of get on the same page and just play catch. Those are the guys, you know what I mean? So there'll definitely be an opportunity to do that.
So this is obviously nothing crazy, but he definitely still loved to hear that these three foundational pieces of the Eagles offense not only want to continue to get better, but also that they get along off the field, and this chemistry and also their drive to get better will only serve them well heading into this year and hopefully for many more years after that. And now switching gears, we got to talk about Nolan Smith, as he was apparently extremely impressive during the offseason and OTAs for the Eagles, and we've talked about this in multiple other videos before, so if you want to go check those out after this video, you can. But just real quick here, some things that stood out from Nolan Smith during OTAs were one, his unbelievable athletic ability, his crazy work ethic, and the fact that he continued to improve every single day. At least that's what Nick Sirianni said at his latest press conference during OTAs. And now that the Eagles are on break, Nolan Smith is using it as an opportunity to continue to get better, as he was at Von Miller's Pass Rush Summit over the weekend, where he was able to learn from Miller, as well as guys like Micah Parsons, Cam Jordan, and Max Crosby, who are also all in attendance at the camp. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy is going to be a fan favorite. He absolutely loves the game. He wants to learn from everyone. At least it sounds that way from what he said at OTAs, from what Nick Sirianni said at OTAs, and now the fact that he's at this pass rushing camp shows that he's trying to absorb information from everyone he can, and this will surely be really beneficial because he's going to get a chance to learn from guys who have already accomplished a lot in this league so far, and this is definitely a big opportunity for him to learn a lot more about the game and how to get better. And Nolan Smith also just obviously has an insane work ethic, and he's going to play with passion and energy, and he's definitely going to get an opportunity this year to contribute, and whatever his role is, I just know he's going to come in and shine in it. Now we move over to a somewhat drama-filled situation. We got to talk about Darius Slay and Matt Patricia. Now back in April when the Eagles decided to hire Matt Patricia, a lot of people questioned this move due to Patricia's poor relationship with Darius Slay during their time together with the Detroit Lions, but whether they like it or not, they now have to learn how to get along since reuniting with the Eagles, and it seems like they've been able to do that so far, as Darius Slay spoke to Jenna Malinowski of the Detroit Free Press, and he said that things are, quote, cordial between the two, and he elaborated saying, quote, we both got the same goal, just going out there to compete and win a championship, so that's the main focus. I mean, this is definitely a good sign that Slay said these things. Now, to be fair, I don't think that if they weren't getting along for whatever reason, Slay would come out and say that publicly, but I think we have to take these statements at face value and just believe what Slay says here. And then I also saw something else very interesting pertaining to this situation, as Josh Alper of Pro Football Talk made a very good point in his recent article talking about this, where he said, quote, Slay's interactions with Patricia in his current role are going to be very different than the way they had to interact during their time with the Lions. That should make it easier easier to avoid the kind of confrontations that helped send Slay to Philadelphia in the first place. And I think when you think about that statement, that just puts it in a whole new perspective. And I think this, combined with the recent comments by Darius Slay, at least makes me feel a little bit better about the Matt Patricia hire. At the time that the Eagles did it, I wasn't exactly the biggest fan, but you definitely can't deny Matt Patricia's success as a defensive coach in this league. And I did say at the time that they hired him, I was going to give him a chance. And again, like I said, these reports are definitely making me think at least a little bit more positively about the Matt Patricia hire. But what do you guys think about this? How are you feeling about the Matt Patricia situation? If you were someone who wasn't a fan of the Patricia hire, how are you feeling now since Darius Slay's recent comments? And now the last thing I want to mention is in regards to the Eagles offensive line, as Pro Football Focus recently ranked them as the #1 offensive line in the entire NFL, and there's really no surprise there. I mean, this is a line that's got 2 future Hall of Famers. You got 2 other Pro Bowl caliber players, so there's absolutely no disputing their ranking at #1. And the Eagles offensive line has always been a really big part of their success, and I have absolutely zero doubt that this offensive line is going to be unstoppable again this season. And now with all that being said, we're going to wrap this video up, guys. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below about anything that we mentioned in this video so far, whether it be the Eagles not having minicamp or Jalen Hurts potentially growing his connection with his top wideouts, or Darius Slay and Matt Patricia's connection. Just let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And if you did enjoy this video and want to show some support, make sure you drop a like on it and also subscribe if you don't want to miss any other videos like this coming in the future. And if you want to watch another Eagles video talking about 10 standouts from Eagles OTAs, you can go watch this one right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.